Man of Steel, you wanted to ask me a question about that Man of Steel?
I want to ask you point blank, like right now, which do you, okay, you can nuance it however you want because I think the answer is nuanced. Which is better? So it looks like we're tracking to about 125 million US, but overseas we're tracking to less than 100 million. So that would imply a global opening weekend of maybe 215, 220, something around that area. That is passable, but I would argue strangely disappointing in some ways for two reasons. Number one is the 125 US looks a little weaker when you consider the preview buildup was 22.5 million before they got to Friday. That was running stronger than The Batman, which did 135 million opening weekend on a 3-hour movie, and was actually a little bit shy of BVS, which is the strongest DC preview they've had, which was 27 million en route to 166. At 22 and a half previews, they probably should have been thinking more like 140, and they're only going to get to 125. So it kind of says the weekend walk-up audience wasn't as strong as they thought it was going to be or would have hoped. And then overseas, this movie is kind of being rejected. So even places in Europe like the UK, which normally are pretty strong for properties like this, it's tracking for a pretty disappointing weekend, and I don't believe is even going to be number one in the box office there. This movie barely made a dent in China at all. It's looking like it's going to gross less than 10 million total in China in its run. To put that in perspective, Man of Steel did 65 million in China, and Aquaman did 300 million in China back in 2018. So Asia has summarily rejected this movie. Europe is lagging. And the US audience came out of the gates really hot ahead of Friday, but is kind of already sort of petering out, even though, and this is why I say it's disappointing, the critical score is still 82%. The audience score is still 93%. The cinema score is A-. That combination of results should have gotten this movie a bigger number. That's why I say it's disappointing.
Yeah.
220 global, first off, $1 billion is not happening, right? I mean, I've said all along it wouldn't get to $1 billion. We're not even going to get close. I think the number you should be watching, and granted, I get there's inflation, but let's take that out for a second. The number you should be watching is Man of Steel's number. So Man of Steel's number is 670 all in. If you want to make a China adjustment and just kind of say like China doesn't really support or really show these movies to the same extent anymore, and you say, okay, I'm going to take Man of Steel 65 out, I'll take 10 out of this Superman. So Man of Steel's reference point is maybe more low sixes. Low sixes is looking like kind of the limit. Like it's kind of looking like if this movie has legs, it will match Man of Steel. So it will maybe get over that 500 million mark that the studio officially says they're hoping for. But 600 million, if that's what we wind up at, I don't see how you call that a grand slam for a Superman movie that appears on the surface to have been received this well. To put this in perspective, and I do want to get into this, Man of Steel's critical score is 56% compared to the 82 for this movie. Man of Steel's audience score is 75% compared to this movie's 93. They both got an A- cinema score. For those two movies about the same character, 13 years apart, to make effectively the same amount of money, kind of says to me something else is going on with this one. And that's where you kind of have to look at, is it the immigration wokeism story stuff starting to kind of go in there? Is it just that Superman as a whole, as a character, just is kind of seen as sort of hokey and just not as compelling? Is it, let's not go full politics, but is there some sort of broader U.S., non-U.S. thing going on here where people just outside the U.S. chose to make this movie the one that they didn't go see? I mean, they are seeing other stuff. So I don't like Jurassic's doing fine overseas, right? So like they don't hold anything against the dinos. But like, are they holding it against Superman, Truth, Justice, and the American way historically versus now it's Truth, Justice, and the global way or the human way? I don't know. But I think this movie's legs are looking a little weak compared to the reaction it seems to be getting. And that is at least got to register as a bit of a concern for the DCU as a launch pad.
What is David Zaslav thinking? Is it possible, Brian, that James Gunn needs to take a back seat, as we've spoken about in the past? Does he need to take a back seat, perhaps participate in the creation, but not be the one writing these things? And how involved should James Gunn be?
Oh, I'm not going to put it all on Gunn, but there's an irony to this. And there's a Wall Street Journal feature, which if you guys have access to the journal or can find an article that references it, is a must read. Talks about Superman as the movie to save the Warner Brothers studio. And we won't get into all the details. But the irony here, and we've said this for years since David Zaslav took over. David Zaslav is seemingly more of a traditionalist. You can read into that what you want. He has certainly overseen some controversial decisions that could be read a certain way, like the canceling of the Batgirl film. The Journal article, plain as day, says he, as we told you years ago, he canceled the Ta-Nehisi Coates J.J. Abrams Black Superman movie as, quote, in the article, too woke, end quote. It would be ironic if this Superman, which he would probably tell you and trumpet as a return to Superman's roots, a traditionalist Superman, suffers box office consequences because of the perception that it's too woke. That would be highly ironic if that's the outcome of this. I'm not saying that's the only reason that's happening. I'm just pointing out the parallels there.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not the one who put Superman on Fox News and called it super woke. They did that, right? So my point is, this movie is getting that label, whether Zaslav wants it or not. Yeah. So that would be ironic. But what he's thinking is, he has to be nervous because this universe has to work. The restructuring of the WB is moving DC more front and center as a torch carrier for the entire company. They've broken up the company. They've split it. They've done different things to it. I don't want to get into it here, but like, DC has to work. 600 million or 550 or 625 or whatever it's going to wind up being here is a good enough to keep going, especially given that the response they can point to is that people generally seem to have liked what they saw, but it's not. I guarantee in his heart of hearts, I'm not sure he was thinking it was $1 billion, but I think he's thinking this was, I think if you told him this is going to make less than Man of Steel with no inflation adjustment, I think he would have been disappointed in that. And it looks like we might be in that conversation.
This is why we're going to repeat the same mistake. You know that, right? I don't necessarily think it's a mistake. I think this is the route to go.
Oh, yes.
But I think they're going down the same path as they did with Man of Steel and not making a sequel. Put the signal in the sky.
Put the signal in the sky right now on our screens, Pablo, because you know who's coming. You know who's coming.
Of course. Of course.
And the Journal article confirms what we've held for years. Man of Steel, the article says WB at the time of Man of Steel penciled in $1 billion. Because, and I do want to get into a Man of Steel discussion before we leave this review. They thought coming off of the Nolan trilogy with Nolan's name on this as producer and it being Nolan's idea, and I will say for all the greatness that Christopher Nolan has done, this is maybe, in my opinion, the low point of his career because his sensibilities and his ideas were not the best translation for Superman. Yeah. But they ran with it because of all the money that he had made for them with Batman.
Yeah.
So they thought a Superman movie with Nolan's name and production company coming off The Dark Knight Rises was a shoo-in for $1 billion. The article tells you that. When Man of Steel made 670, they panicked. And in their panic, they overrode, and this is where it's you gotta sort of say to Zach, it wasn't all on him. They overruled whatever his original plan was for a follow-up, and they mandated that Batman come into the next movie, which leads to BVS, which leads to the end of the DCEU. That's the moment where the DCEU ends. It is a reaction to Man of Steel's okay, but not great box office that leads to the end of the DCEU. That is what Pablo is talking about, and the parallels right now are eerie when you hear the rumors of World's Finest already out there.
And I don't mind it, but I'm concerned if James Gunn is doing it, which I think he'll be the one doing it. That is my concern, Brian. Now, my concerns are not leaving, because we've already seen what concerns we had prior to this movie coming out, and look what we're talking about.
And it's complicated because Gunn gave you a lot of stuff in this movie where you're like, he got it. Like, he did understand a lot of the characters. And I would argue, and maybe we can have a discussion now, he understands the essence and roots of Superman, I think, better than Nolan did. Better than, I think he chooses the parts of Superman that I think resonate with broader audience than I think Snyder did, right? Snyder really focused on the godlike element of Superman. But the other lens through which I would suggest people view this as a modest disappointment are Gunn's other numbers. Guardians 1, 770 million. Mm-hmm. Guardians 2, 869. Guardians 3, 845. And within that, all three of the Guardians movies were basically about 60 to 65% non-US, 30 to 35, say 35 to 40% US. This movie is going to end up being 60 to 65% US versus non-US, and is going to end up well below any movie involving the Guardians of the Galaxy. Superman's going to end up, a perceived good Superman movie is going to end up below Guardians of the Galaxy by a pretty good margin, with the same director and the same writer. I think that also, through that lens, you have to say it's a little bit of a disappointment. And considering it's pillars, right? It's pillars, right? It's Superman, Batman, Supergirl, Wonder Woman. This is the first pillar. This pillar is neither as tall or as sturdy as we hoped. And we know all of the risk involved coming with Supergirl that have nothing to do with Millie Alcock and just the bias of the struggles of those types of movies. This is a shaky beginning in some senses. It's not an awful beginning. It's not a bury the universe and call it a day, because people generally are responding well to it. But it is not the vote of confidence that David Zaslav would have wanted to see. And the irony is, this studio has had a great year. But at the start of the year, you would have said Superman has to be the one to carry the lunchbox. And you were kind of finding out, like, Minecraft, Sinners, I think they even were a partner on on F1's distribution as Warner Brothers. Like, it's everything else that's carrying the lunchbox, and Superman's kind of like got a seat on the bus, but is not driving.
Interesting stuff.
Here's my other audience breakdown that I think is, and I saved an element of Gunn here that I want to talk about. Mm-hmm. I was right about one thing. The audience that is most coming out and responding to this movie is a little bit younger than you or I. So 18 to 34s are kind of the strongest segment of the audience so far, and they're giving it high marks. A lot of different ways to score that, but there's like a service that does, would you definitely recommend this movie? And so like the 18 to 34s are pretty high on this film. And basically their response to this film is comparable to Deadpool and Wolverine. But obviously Deadpool and Wolverine is going to make twice what this movie makes, despite an R rating. But things that I find interesting, the kids actually didn't come out for this movie as much. The amount of audience that's under 18 is not that high. This movie is skewing more to at least the 18 to 34s. It's skewing actually even older than that. It's skewing very heavily male. It's like 70% of the audience has been male. Ethnically, the movie is pretty diverse. Like you're seeing a breakdown in audience that pretty much mirrors the breakdown in population. So this movie is not pushing away certain demographics. So that's good. But when we talk about the four quadrants, like reaching all of the segments of the audience, which I think is what they made this movie to do, I don't think it's done that. It's kind of really been more into the harder core fans with a little bit of a younger bias. That's what they've achieved.
I found it a little bit to me, hard to have my son watch a specific scene in the movie. My son is 7 years old.
Just say what scene it is, because I think I know which one. Say what scene it is.
Yeah, the scene that Lex is playing Russian roulette with the dude.
Okay, so I had two, and that's one of the two. And I'm going to take my 10-and-a-half-year-old to see it today, but I'm going to prep her beforehand. Yeah. And I will basically cover her eyes on that one scene of like,
that's
you don't
what
want to
I did. That's what I did.
So that's one. I agree with you. Even though I think the scene serves a purpose to the story, I think it renders that piece of the movie inaccessible to a certain age audience. The other one this is where I run into issues with James Gunn. Which way do you want it? So Crypto is clearly there for kids. Like 100%. Why is that character in there doing what he's doing? To my mind, it is to bring children to the audience, to the theater. But in the same movie, was it really necessary to have the Superman harem joke? Did that really further the story to have that be one of the outputs of Jor-El's message? And like they seem to have a drinking game with how many times they needed to say that word. And I'm like, you could say I'm being a crotchety old parent for like bringing that up, but I'm just pointing out to me the inherent the inherent conflict of you have this adorable dog on the one hand, and then you've got a guy shooting a dude point blank, and you're talking about orgy sex basically on the other. Like, what? Who actually are you aiming at? Yeah. And there's even the scene where Jimmy goes down to meet Tessmacher, and he walks by like 3 prostitutes in the street. And you're like, why is that in there? What does that add? Why did you have to have that in there?
Yeah, like, why is this? Is this Gotham? Like, what? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, that to me is just Gunn has to put that flourish on there, and I'm like, you didn't add anything, and what you did was now I have to talk like there. And I know I'm not alone. If there are parents who saw this without their kids, they're gonna have to basically be like, all right, I got to explain that one. Or there are parents who go in not knowing that it's in there, and probably will walk out and go on like Common Sense Media and be like, don't see this because of that.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm like, you didn't have to put that in there. That's my point. That wasn't necessary to furthering your objectives with this movie. You did it because you like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that bothered me. My son, he saw it, but I had to do that, and again with Superman 1978, you don't have to, yo.
That's the thing. And to be honest, do you have to do it in Man of Steel? Him breaking the neck is definitely traumatic. So that one you kind of have to warn your kids. So I would say yes from a violence standpoint. Yeah. But like that movie is not really doesn't really have a ton of humor in it, but like there's not much in the language and the content that you have to really police. Yeah. To your kids. It's just a more mature tonal movie. Yeah. But I agree with you. The best movies the best movies in some ways, the best PG-13 movies force you to make those choices the least. Mm-hmm. And that's what I mean by this movie. When I'm in it, I really enjoy it. But Gunn has this way of taking me out of it with some of his little choices, humors, and things that he just likes to do.
Like the Hawk Girl dropping the dude to his death. And it's like, I don't know, man. These are the things that have concerned me, and it continues to concern me. Anything James Gunn, like you said, he's not my filmmaker.
Talented, but some of his taste is not mine. His humor, some of his taste is not mine. But he is brilliant at certain things. And like I will say this, you know what I want James Gunn to always be for these movies? I want him to be the casting director. I think he is the single best. I've never seen anyone who could do this at this hit rate. Because who thought Chris Pratt was a good Star-Lord? Like this guy, who thought Dave Bautista would be a scene-stealing alien character? This guy knows how to take a piece of someone's aesthetic or shtick or personality and translate it to a comic character. Is he perfect? No. We talk about Hawkgirl maybe not being perfect, but man, he's really good at that. Yeah. I would definitely have him consulting. So in that sense, I'm excited about the DCU because it tells me this guy will be in the room for casting decisions across the board. I'm expecting a very high hit rate for people playing these parts where we're like, yeah, that was pretty darn good. You got pretty close. So that I love. But some of this little stuff, I think it's not necessary. I do think it hurt the cause. I don't think it make or break the movie. I don't. But I'm fascinated to see when Fantastic Four rolls in a couple weeks where we shake out here. I don't think Fantastic Four is going to $1 billion either, but I'm now dreading, are we going to be having this conversation in August of like both these movies make $600 million and we're like, is the genre just effed? Like, is that it? Like, did we just like, are we truly like that far into the downside of this?
Yeah.
I don't want to be there, but this has me a little bit nervous. Again, I'm not as high on it as that 82% and that 93%, but I don't hate it. And clearly a lot of people like it. They're just not liking it enough to either see it a bunch of times or tell their friends, hey, you got to get there now.
Oh, one thing I wanted to mention, wouldn't it be dope if Superman is like, I need that data, but I don't want to just go and just get it myself, because I don't want to Debo it. I'll ask Batman to do it for me. Like, help him get that data.
Gunn has implied that the two of them have already interacted in this universe. He said in one of the press tours, he's like, you shouldn't assume that they don't know each other or that they don't know that the other exists.
Oh, okay. That's different. That's different.
Yeah. So you should just kind of assume that like there's a possibility that Batman is watching this proceeding in some way, or that Superman's been watching what he's doing in Gotham, or he's been to Gotham. It's kind of just implied. So we'll see where they go with that. I did want to ask you a tonal question, and then I have a Man of Steel question. You've seen the tone and the palette of this movie. Mm-hmm. I think we would agree that you can't just that Robert Pattinson would not be a good fit.
Oh, no.
Okay, so we now that we've seen it, I think it's fair to say that. Would it be fair to say, I think you'll be with me on this, our guy would be a perfect fit in this universe?
Come on, man. I wish they had... That clip probably doesn't exist for that Mr. Terrific. Like, come on, man.
Alan Ritchson's Batman and Batman Effect in this universe, he could be darker. He could definitely be darker than David Cornsweet, but man, he would work in this. He would work in this.
Hell's yeah. It's like all these other names don't, like, I get it, but Alan Ritchson in this world is a no-brainer. Just like Adrian Arjona. No-brainer. This is it right here. These are the pillars right here. And then you got to do something to make Superman dope again, because that's what we're still, even though Superman, we like this Superman, but he can't be Hawkgirl when it comes to the Justice League. He has to shine, and I don't think he shined enough.
Yeah, we agree on that. But I found myself thinking about Ritchson coming out of this movie, because Reacher goes to dark places, but he retains sometimes that dark humor, that matter-of-fact nature. And I'm not saying he needs to play Bruce exactly as Jack Reacher. That's not the point. What I'm saying is, in a dark show, at a very serious dark show, he retains enough light that he could walk into this universe and you wouldn't be like, these don't make any sense. That's what I'm saying. And you know what? I know we had this discussion with this universe. Put him in the navy and gray. It will work. It will work in this movie.
Yeah.
So if they do World's Finest,
I just hope James Gunn ain't directing, or writing. He could. I don't know.
You know he's
but he's already done. He's pretty much done with that script.
I mean, whether it's Brave and the Bold, World's Finest, like Andy Muschietti's not directing He's not directing the first DCU Batman outing. James Gunn is probably going to do that. But I know it's fan casting, but like he's got to see what we see. This is the guy.
I know he does.
This
Yo,
is the
I know
guy.
he does. I know he does. Yo, I know he does.
He will lose 20 pounds for you. He will look perfect. He is 6'3" in real life, so it's exactly what we need. Like we have 6'3", 6'4" Clark, Bruce, and Lex. We're good, man. We got the physicality of what we need. And I know Nicholas Hoult is lobbying hard to get a Joker cast alongside him for that. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes.
He's lobbying hard for that.
He saw what we saw in that Batman the Animated Series World's Finest. He saw what he saw.
He wants to team up on both sides, and I'm like, you know what? I'm here for it. If you want to do that, I'm here for it. I don't think this movie being as light as it is precludes other tones. The MCU was very tonally constraining, as we found out. It was great, but everything kind of had to fit into this funnel. I don't think they have to do that here. While I don't think Pattinson would work individually, I think you could definitely have a Batman who's plenty dark and does things plenty dark ways that actually would interact with this universe in a way that makes sense. And in part, like I said, I think it's in part because they had Lex kill the way he did. Like this universe has a darkness to it that you can explore. And that's where I'm actually interested to see, like, how far are they willing to go with that? Like, are they willing to bring in that type of multiple tones and have them mesh and collide in the same film? I want to see it. I think it can work. I really do.
Yeah. Man of Steel, you wanted to ask me a question about that Man of Steel?
I want to ask you point blank, like right now, which do you, okay, you can nuance it however you want, because I think the answer is nuanced. Which is better?
Which movie is better? Just regular as a movie.
You answer it how you want. I think the answers are different based upon how you want to context this movie. But I think it's a valid strengths versus weaknesses discussion.
Yeah.
Like, how did you feel? Do you remember how you felt coming out of Man of Steel versus how you felt coming out of this? And then, like, as you've seen it now twice, how so far, like, how do you think this Superman will hold up over time versus how Man of Steel, the perception of it has evolved?
Listen, for Man of Steel, man, I was just like Will. I was hyped. The music,
more hype. You were more. Would that be fair? I think we were both more hyped for Man of Steel than this movie.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
More hyped beforehand.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I came in here with concerns. I didn't go into Man of Steel with a lot of concerns because of what Zack Snyder had done in the past. He did
300
and Watchmen. So I was like, oh snap! And then
the
trailers
were awesome.
Yeah, man.
Okay, so you were let down, is what you're saying. You walked out a little let down.
I was let down as to there wasn't enough Clark Kent for me. But I understand the story that he was telling, because this is like from the beginning, Superman's beginning. I enjoyed when he first found out who he was. I enjoyed the flight scene. I just didn't think he was given, like we've said in the past, a lot to do and say. I think Zack Snyder's writing is bad, yo. He doesn't write good dialogue. And I think Henry Cavill didn't say stuff in there that was like Supermanish. And the screaming, constant screaming, the feats that he had to pull off were dope. The effects were dope. His flying sequences was dope. Those things were dope, yo.
Yes.
Do I like this better than this? I think it's just different, yo. The flight in here is different.
Also great. I think I think you instinctively went to the nuance that I went to. And maybe it's controversial. I don't know. I think James Gunn's Superman is a better, truer Superman movie than Man of Steel. But I think Man of Steel is a better movie. I do.
Yeah.
And here's my case. If you took the label of Superman off of Man of Steel, so you just change all the character names and symbols, and I just show you that movie, It's not perfect. I'm not saying that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do think it's more cohesive. I think it looks every bit as good, if not better in some ways. And I think it's compelling. I think it holds your interest for all of its flaws.
Yeah.
Ironically, what drags Man of Steel down and makes it more controversial is that it's got Superman in it, that it has his name on it, that it has those characters, because the characterizations they choose seem to go very far afield of what I think a lot of people associate with Superman. Whereas Gunn goes the other way, and he leans into, I think, what a lot of people, he leans into the nostalgia, I think, of comics, of cartoons, and of what a lot of people's perception of the Superman they grew up with should be. So in that sense, I think James Gunn's Superman is more Superman-y. He's a more Superman movie. But I got to be honest, I think Man of Steel is a better movie. It's a tighter movie. Even with all the destruction, it has a real visual eye that is different than other things Zach has done. There's no slow-mo. It's a lot of single cam. It has great effects. And I will tell you, I do think because it was aimed more at an adult audience, it was aimed more at me. My immediate, when I walked out of Man of Steel, was like, it was almost too much to process. But I felt that movie a little deeper than I feel this one, if that makes sense. What happened was, on examination, Man of Steel started to hold up less, because I kind of was like, wait, what? Like, what did he do? Like, what? Like, why did we destroy the entire, like, you know what I mean? Like, you started to ask these questions as I saw it again, and as the years have gone on, to where now I'm like, I still like it. I still rewatch it. My kid loves the flying. That's her favorite Superman scene. She's seen Christopher Reeve. She's seen her favorite Superman sequence is Henry Cavill's first flight. And I can't argue with that's as good a Superman sequence as we've had. This movie, I walked out feeling like the vibes of what everyone's talking about, the vibes of watching cartoons and the vibes of flipping through comic books. But my issue upon examination is like the actual quality of the cinema, start to finish. When you get into it, you hear it in our conversation, there's probably more holes in this than the critic score and the audience score would lead you to believe. I don't, my point is, the critic score is 82 versus 56. The audience score is 93 versus 75. I don't think there's that big of a gap between Man of Steel and this movie. It just depends on the lens through which you look at it.
Yeah, they're two different takes,
almost different genres. They're almost different genres.
Yeah. They're different. But Man of Steel definitely goes towards a path of understanding, and what would it be like for a guy, like that question that Lawrence Fishburne asked, you know, do you know how people will react if they knew someone out there was like this? That's a valid freaking question.
Sadly, they don't have the writers in the room to actually answer that question in a way that was the best possible. You're right. But I think you also have to remember of a time. Man of Steel comes at a time when the obsession of Hollywood coming off of Christopher Nolan's trilogy was grounding heroes, making it gritty. Remember that? Like everything was, you got to gray it up. You got to darken it up. Marvel kind of rose above that in the next 6 years, but we hadn't gotten there yet. Remember, 2013 Man of Steel predates Winter Soldier and Guardians, which I would say is where the MCU takes off. The MCU in 2013 is also grounding Thor in the Dark World, right? Like, not a great year for the MCU, if you're being honest. Iron Man 3, kind of another polarizing, successful project. It's not until 2014 that Marvel finds the MCU tone and goes parabolic. So Hollywood's obsession, when Man of Steel is made, everything has to be gritty. Everything has to be dirty. Everything has to be gray. And in that context, Man of Steel is actually really compelling along those lines. What I find with the James Gunn Superman, I don't know if you had any of this. I found myself thinking about Sam Raimi's Spider-Man a lot.
Yeah, I've said.
Do you feel that? Like, just in terms of the way.
When I watch it, I was like, this is like a comic book movie in terms of the transitions that they use. It's a comic book movie.
Yeah, and I found myself thinking of that because Raimi, I thought, struck that chord. If you look at how over the top J.K. Simmons is as J. Jonah Jameson. Look at how silly some of the little side parts are in Spider-Man. But it works because the performances are really good among most of the leads. Kirsten Dunst, we can debate a little bit. But the visual sequences at the time of Spidey swinging, we hadn't really seen before. And so the movie feels, and to your point, there's even cut scenes that are like comics, like where they're like pulling the cuts and the way the camera's spinning in and out. I think James Gunn's Superman is much closer and more parallel to that as a launch point than Man of Steel, than Iron Man 1. Like, I really, like, those movies to me were going for something else. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man comes along when we were in the dark ages of comics and tries to introduce a lighthearted but humanized, emotional, character-driven, superhero spectacle, and largely succeeds. I think it's slightly better than this movie, but I think this movie is, to my mind, that DNA is much more similar to that. That's what I found myself thinking about.
So it's a really tough comparison. I'm pretty sure. I mean, listen, man, there's no need to get angry or go after people. They're two different types of movies here, man. And
you're going to hear from that crowd, though. If the box office on this does not get to Man of Steel's number, you're going to hear from the Snyder crowd.
What? They're getting ready,
hear
yo.
From them.
They're getting ready. They have their list ready to just pump them out, yo. And that would be regardless of what James Gunn say. He's not going to be. I'm sure he's happy at the movie that he's made. But
he should be really happy with who he found to play the main part.
Oh, yeah.
He should be proud and happy. He found 3 people in the leads who absolutely delivered.
Yeah. Before we end this, Brian, and we don't have to last that long talking about it, but
I mean, let's be real.
That mid and end credit scene was
that is whack.
Was just not worth me being there for having to wait. I get. I just didn't think it was necessary, man. The cuts, the mid credit scene and the end credit scene always worked when you did it right. Is when you don't do it right and you keep promising next thing. You definitely promising us something next, right?
So here's what I'm going to say. There is a credit scene in this that's relevant, but it's not in the credits. It's Millie Alcock's cameo.
Yes.
That's the credit scene. Because that's the next movie.
Yes.
They give you 30 seconds with Supergirl. And yes, on the surface, if you're not in the nerdverse, you're meant to laugh at her being kind of a punk. And you're like, oh, Crypto's her dog. And that's why he's not well-trained or well-behaved. Like it kind of... Yeah. There was something about this I really liked, and it caught my interest. Corn Sweat drops a line about her basically going off to other planets with red suns so she can get drunk. The movie does not explore, and they're like, oh, and the robot's like, oh, she likes to party. If you know the story of Woman of Tomorrow, she's drinking to deal with issues.
Yeah.
She's down on the universe and is not as heroic at the start of that, which leads to the revenge mission she gets roped into. If they feed on that, this idea of almost like a cowboy, like a gunslinger, who's dealing with demons and conflicted off-world and kind of drowning some of the sorrows, there is material there that I'm interested in.
I'm going to make a prediction.
Prediction?
Yes. Prediction.
So that's your credit scene. My point is that's the credit scene that matters.
Supergirl's going to outperform Superman.
Say what?
Whoa. At the box office.
Oh, hell's yeah.
That is a take. Whoa. Pablo
Yes.
goes in. Listen, if Supergirl does $700 million at the box office, that is a we hit 3 grand slams in the same game.
And the reason why
only Wonder Woman's got that.
Yeah, this is the reason why James Gunn not directing. There's other people in the room to tell the story that they want to tell, and James Gunn is not around for it. Certainly, there's going to be humor and all this other stuff, but the situation is going to be a lot more interesting and more specific. And I think this is gonna be interesting right here, Brian. I think that movie is gonna do better than this Superman.
Wow, that is a prediction. All right, frame it. Pablo called it. But I think that little cameo is why I didn't have a problem with the credits, because I felt like I got the hook. In the same way that at the end of Batman Begins, the Joker card is not in the credits; it's in the last scene. That's your hook.
Yeah,
so I'm okay with them saying, you know what, we want to differentiate more from the MCU by not making you sit through these to see scenes that go somewhere. We already gave you that. We're just going to have a little bit of fun. That I think there are people who actually have responded well to the idea of, I don't have to sit through 2 hours to see the one shot that I actually came to see. I'm just saying, I've seen that online where people are like, oh, thank God these credit scenes were not like hooks for 2 or 3 other movies. They were just kind of go nowhere, like little smiles. That's the other school of thought.
Yeah.
But they did give it to you. That's my point. They did give it to you. And maybe that's why I was okay with the crypto shot and the Mr. Terrific or whatever it was they did. But
I would have been more interested if that was the end credit scene and not in, but
You blew it. You blew it.
to have me sit there for that, the one that I already saw, you showed it to me already.
the
And
best
then-
rumored.
And then at the
best
end,
rumored.
I don't know. I didn't get the end part. What was?
I didn't either. I don't even know whether it was like an outtake or what. It felt like a total throwaway for the characters to be on screen. I'm with you. The credit scenes do nothing. If you don't feel like staying, you don't have to stay.
Yeah.
Like, you don't. The rumored one that I would have wanted is obviously the Daniel Craig as Brainiac. That was the one that if that had been true, I would have lost my mind. But but that didn't happen. So.
Oh, we could have used the end credit scene to find out what happened to Bizarro.
He's not dead, I don't think. You think?
I don't know.
You clone him once, you can still clone him again. It's like the engineer is sort of just out there, unresolved, knocked out, but clearly around.
I don't even. Yeah, I only remember the first half of this the movie. I don't know what happened to her, which is again. There are certain.
I feel a little bad for that actress. I feel a little bad for that actress because similar to Feora's performance in Man of Steel, I think she delivers like a really intense, like she's a good henchman. She's evil, she's athletic. I didn't love the CGI, but I liked her ferocity. But knowing what we know about the Authority basically kind of getting taken off the board, I feel a little bad for her because it's like that character now is sort of like a sore thumb. Like, where does it go? May not go anywhere. They clearly intended it as like a way into another movie that doesn't sound like it's happening. Like, so that's all. Like that character may not come. There's a chance like that character just doesn't come back, and because of what's happened to the Authority. Yeah, and it's just sort of left. Yeah.
Anything else, Brian?
No, I mean we went through a lot of stuff. I hope people enjoyed it, and it's like I do like that the movie has us talking. I always like, this movie is not like a deep movie. I don't think it's meant as that, but I like a movie that's thought provoking from the standpoint of comics and history and performances, and I think this movie is that. I wish it was doing better. I do think it deserves to be doing better than it is, and I'm just a little worried that like whatever reason that audiences just are not feeling like it's a must see. Maybe that's just an indication of Superman. Maybe that's an indication of superhero fatigue is just really escalating. But I'm a little disappointed to see to see the response that's out there, and then to see box office that's really going to be kind of middle of the road. It does show the cannibalism though of this movie season. Like Like if you look at what's out in theaters right now and the numbers that these movies have put up, they all are kind of taken from each other. We knew this at the start of the year. So like the big winners were the ones that delivered early, right? Like if Sinners comes out right now, I don't think it does as big numbers as it did. It came out in a period where it grabbed the consciousness. There was nothing else to go see, and everyone went to go see Sinners.
Yeah.
But like Minecraft coming in April wound up being a big move. Like that's $1 billion movie. That comes out now, maybe it's 750, 700. Like that's $1 billion movie in part because of the timing and because of the kid, But you look at what's in the theaters now. It's like Jurassic's probably going to do like 800 something. That's number 2 at the theater. F1, big surprise to the upside, is going to do like 600. No one saw that coming. Well, maybe we did, but like no one else saw that coming. Mission Impossible, disappointing box office, is still 600. That's still wrapping up its run in the theaters. Lilo and Stitch is over $1 billion. And so I'm just saying, at the same time, you have all of those movies competing for dollars and competing for screen time and competing for audiences. And this movie comes along and is going to do 600. And Fantastic Four is going to try to get in that mix. That's a lot. People just don't have it in them to spend that kind of money, especially if they have families and they don't have that kind of like we have that kind of time because that's what we do, part of what we do. But like, I get it where people are like, I spent my dollars. Like I spent my dollars already. I just don't have it to go do 3 more of these before the summer's over.
I think Fantastic Four is going to outperform Superman.
You have a chance at that, but I think it's going to be close. I don't think it's going to be by a lot. I don't. I think it's going to be like we're talking like
if parents don't have to cover their kids' eyes, they'll take their kids to go see Fantastic Four.
And it's funny because I would have said with the whole pregnancy angle, I would have said like going in, Superman was the more kid-friendly movie. But I agree with you. There's some stuff in here where you're like, if you're a parent. Whereas Fantastic Four might be more innocuous in terms of its innuendo or its humor. Like if it is, you're right. That could definitely, giant robotic alien or whatever could be, maybe that's the thing that gets kids interested. You're right. If the kids come out, it will definitely push. I don't know if it'll get to $1 billion, but 800, I definitely think you could see that.
But we've had a long discussion of Superman, man, and it's gonna continue for another week or so because of the box office numbers, because of what continues to do there, and what other conversations people talk about for this movie, because it's not going to go away, because people will be talking about what's next. I think the focus will shift. And people will talk about where's Batman. It's just the way it is. It is going to be very interesting to see and hear what Zaslav, Gunn, all that camp has to say about those numbers and what's next and what James, in order to keep the excitement up, Brian. Who knows if we get an announcement for World's Finest?
This won't happen, but I'm going to keep writing for him to come into the genre because I think it would check the most boxes. Joe Kosinski should direct World's Finest. I'm going to keep writing for this guy to join the universe because he's, again, another director who's not an amazing writer. But when you look at the visuals of Maverick, you look at the visuals of F1, Batman's, in some ways, he got some vehicles, man. He's a vehicular character, too. You want to see a guy who can give you spectacle at the highest of levels and make it look real and marry that with some of the sensationalism that Gunn has. I think he can do it, and he doesn't have to write the movie. I think he would be... And he has shown with especially Maverick and with F1, he is able to thread the needle to make something pretty crowd pleasing that without it making it controversial, which I do think is important now. That is a guy that I would look at if they could get him into the room. I don't think he'll do it, but like, I just think that would be a take I would want to see as long as they've got other writers kind of giving him the material to work with.
Yeah. Yeah, so let us know in the comment section below what you guys thought of Superman. If you watched it a second time, and what you thought of our takes on certain characters, action, story. Is Superman gonna get Batman to get him that data so he can break the code? That would be dope. That would be dope. They can't let that just be that, Brian. I don't think so. Because you can't trust Lex, yo. You can't trust Lex.
Well, now that they introduced this pocket universe, man, which we didn't talk about that as a concept, but that's out there. You telling me that Bruce Wayne and Batman is not all over that thing? Like where the research leads, what could happen. I mean, we've seen that how many times in animated comics where he's just like, he's studied and understood, and then they go to an alternate universe, and alternate universe Batman has studied it going the other way. Like, come on, he has to know what's going on or be investigating everything about that at this point.
Yeah. A lot, man. A lot to discuss over the... Oh, by the way, we got other shows. Me and Brian has spoken about Marvel news that has come out recently, but the talk has always, not always, but the talk has been Superman.
Cleared it out.
And we also have another Void discussion. So we'll be putting those out. We're just trying to get in on the talk of the town as of late and what it could mean, because again, this is not... there's a lot riding on this.
Yep.
A lot riding on this. We've been talking about this, where this could end up. One day, Zaslav just selling this. Because there's billions of dollars to be made if he does.
And we said, based upon the numbers, if it was $1 billion movie, that's the full green light to whatever you want to do. They're definitely not getting the full green light. Right? This is like a yellow light. This is like you can proceed, but proceed with caution.
Does Zaslav tell James Gunn, we want you to get other directors to direct these movies?
Ooh. That's a tough one, only because, again, the critics liked it and the audience score is high, right? So by all metrics, James Gunn can point to, like, people responded to what I did, and Zaslav can't really argue with that. What I think it is if you thought the Batman heat was... If you thought James Gunn's feet were already being put in the Batman fire before this movie came out, I think he will be given a deadline. Pick this guy by this date, have the movie announced by this date, or else. Like, no more messing around. Matt can go do his thing with the Batman 2, and that's great. But, like, you need DCU Batman on the board generating buzz yesterday. Make it happen. That's the immediate fallout, I think, of this.
Yeah.
What else is it? Like, no, all due respect. I know they call them 4 pillars, okay? But you're really going to be like, hey, fast track your casting of Wonder Woman because this movie disappointed? I'm sorry. There's one character that you have that no one else has.
Batman.
That no one else has.
The talk of the town for the next year. If that's announced.
That's what I'm saying. And if you need buzz, you need hype. And if I was them, so it's interesting. One last stat for you. So if they ask people, why did you go see Superman? What made you go see it? The number one driver of why people went to go see it was they said it was something that they detected on social media or social media marketing. You brought this up. They left stuff on the table with the viral marketing in this movie. They did a little bit of it. They didn't do enough of it. Use that for Batman. You want to be smart? Start planting like little Batman seeds on social media. Of like, he's out there, he's investigating, he's turning up things, like leaving symbols, leaving little signs. You build that toward his entrance to where it's like everyone can't wait.
Batman has to be the big thing that, and he just can't be, he has the same, it has to be perhaps that and even bigger in terms of when we first saw Batman in the Batman. You can feel everybody like they were like, yeah, they were ready for this. it has to feel the same way, or if not, it has to be an event because Batman is an event.
And by the way, if they're doing World's Finest, I mean, this Batman has to seduce Lois Lane.
Oh yeah, man, he has to get it.
Because these two have good chemistry, right? But they clearly have their new relationship up and down. If Bruce Wayne walks in and does his thing, is on.
You got to. You got to make her choose like they did in that movie. What's that movie with Tom Hardy and Chris Pine?
Oh my God!
This means war.
This means war. You just ended our Superman podcast with a "This means war" reference. That is officially time for us to go.
She has to choose. Well, let us know in the comment section below what you guys thought. Hit that like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the Nerd Gen Report.
I can't believe you did that.